Okay, maybe I've been a bit too harsh about Anointed Champion in one of the previous videos. That's definitely possible. However, my point still stands. I still think that people pick it for the wrong reasons. People pick it because they think it's a superior damage buffing spec, while it's not. It's actually a good spec, but it's not aimed at buffing allies damage. It's aimed at supporting your allies in different ways, and the main way you are going to be able to support your allies with as Anointed Champions is damage mitigation. Anointed Champion does not shine at increasing allies damage, but it shines in one way. It's going to prevent stupid people from doing stupid mistakes, and on that matter it's great. It's doing the job far better than Divine Oracle, because Divine Oracle isn't as good as preventing people from doing mistakes. Anointed Champion is great if you want to play with players that are unable to press shift once in a while, or people who don't know how to move out of red zone by simply moving a few meters away from the area. That's great if you play with that kind of people, but if you are looking for damage increases, it's still not the best paragon. However, I'm not saying it's completely useless, and actually it can shine. You can make it up for the weaknesses in buffing in several means. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you first the build I recommend as an Anointed Champion. It's quite different from the Divine Oracle build I have recommended because, well, there's one thing first we need. It's the most important thing we need is Gift of the God. Why? Because Gift of the God, like I've said before, is actually going to increase your divinity generation, which is the main problem you are going to face as an Anointed Champion, because you don't have access to Brand of the Sun, and Brand of the Sun is fantastic. It's your best way to generate divinity on a cleric, so you don't have access to it, and you must take Gift of the God, in my opinion, because, well, it's going to let you buff more, and you are going to be able to cast Break the Spirit without having a tremendous an awful uptime on it, and you are going to be a better buffer overall as Anointed Champion if you pick that fit. You can notice also that I have changed a bit, not much, a bit, the Eric fits, because I have picked Healing Action, because Anointed Champion is far more focused on casting Anointed Army more often. You are actually able to generate action points while it's up, so it's quite different from Divine Oracle. You can play it differently, and generating some action points does make sense, because you are not going to be using Brand of the Sun as your second at will, but Astral Seal. So it means that Astral Seal is going to generate a little bit more of action points. That's not much, but in my opinion it's worth taking it, because in that kind of build it does make more sense than picking Greater Fortune, which would not make much sense on that matter. I have also chosen to drop Burial Sins, because Anointed Champion cannot work as well as Divine Oracle with a crit build. I have also dropped Fire of the Gods, which means that overall it will do less damage overall, but that's not what matters really. I've still kept Condemning Gaze because it's fantastic on boss fights, and I have also picked Ancient Warding because, well, it's a small bonus you can use when you are using Anointed Army. It's not completely useless, so yeah, I've picked that. It's still better than damage increases in group content, and since damage increases will not make a big difference overall, I've chosen this one. So, as Anointed Champion, secondly, you are going to have a quite different focus in terms of stats. You are not going to pick as much crit, you are going to invest much more in power and recovery. Why? Because you are going to be willing to cast this thing much more often, as the duration is short. It doesn't last long, so you are going to have to make it up for the weaknesses of the build. You are going to have to make more action points. So because it doesn't last long, Anointed Army is first fragile, I'll show that later I think, and the duration is short, so you are going to have to cast it more often to maybe hope that you are almost as good as Hallowed Ground. You're not going to be as close to it, don't worry, but you are going to be closer to it if you generate more action points actually. So you are not going to be able to invest that much into crits, which means that we are going to actually not build the cleric around strength, but more around charisma and well, wisdom. Or you can choose strength or charisma. That doesn't make a big difference overall. You can pick strength and charisma at the same time, or wisdom and charisma as anointed champion. That shouldn't make too much of a difference overall. I am also recommending something quite different. You may notice that this is a completely different race. This is not half elf because we don't need strength and we need other things. And I am recommending it because, well, there is this buff, Darkfire. It's not great for stats in general. The race isn't great for stats, and we are losing quite a lot. But this buff actually makes it set up for the lack of barrier sense. So this is why I am actually recommending this, because we still need debuffs, and this is one way to provide them without completely sacrificing divinity generation, which is absolutely critical as the devoted. To again compensate for your lack of ability to absolutely spam Break the Spirit and use Hallowed Ground, because you want, I suspect you are going to be willing to cast Anointed Army more often than Hallowed Ground, even if the damage buff is greatly inferior. So now I'm going to talk about some of the spells you may be willing to use as Anointed Champion. The first spell is Exaltation. It's a great PvP spell. It's not that fantastic in PvE if you are playing with highly geared tanks or players in general, because it's actually going to increase their damage resistance. And, well, good tank players often have good gear on them, and they are already near the damage resistance cap, which means that you are not going to use that. It's actually the same problem you have with Astral Shield. You don't use that because the tank is already almost at damage cap with his Bonding Runestone. But if you are playing difficult content with a less geared tank, you may want to use that. It's a good option. It's a good support option in general. It's better in PvP in my opinion, but again, don't overlook it. It's a decent spell. It's a decent support spell, and it does what the Paragon does. So it just fits into the Paragon extremely well. It's not something you are going to use often, don't get me wrong, but it's something you should keep in mind because it's not bad overall. It's quite good actually. But again, the game does not require that currently. I think I've said that too many times. So let's just go talk about the next spell, which is Anointed Action. Anointed Action is actually for yourself. You are going to increase your own damage and your own damage resistance, which is good in PvP, but PvE, there are better team-oriented class features, like for instance, Divine Fortune, and some others I will talk about later. So now, let's address the big issue I see with many Anointed Champion Cleric, which is the use of this horror. This is awful, guys. Do not use this thing. It sucks. First, we didn't fit it because that's bad. That's far worse than taking extra divinity. Where's the fit? Oh, it's there. Yeah, you could pick that and buff allies a bit more, but honestly, generating more divinity and buffing with Break the Spirit far more often it's better. I mean, there's no math behind taking that crap. It's not useful. You should absolutely pick that as an Anointed Champion. And there's no good way to justify using fitting a Blessing of Battle in almost any case, unless you have absolutely crazy stat no one has access to yet. But yeah, if you are doing that, you are using quite shady things, and I don't want to be part of it. So now, why you should not use that? Well, okay, let's waste a bit of divinity. We don't need that much. Okay, I need to waste more. I want to start with 0. So okay, divinity generation when with all the divinity generation things we have is okay, but the casting animation is slow, and you are going to die if you use that thing. Or if you don't die, well, you are going to dodge quite a lot, and you are going to cancel this, and you are not going to. Let's waste again. You are going to cast it, and then, oh no, red damage on the ground. Oh, NPC behind me. No, I'm going to move, because you are, of course, not using that, but you're using that kind of gear, but you are using High Prophet, and you have maybe 60k hit points, and you are not going to be able to take damage, which means that Blessing of Battle is awful. It's just not good at making Divinity, because you are going to dodge quite a lot. Instead, you are going to use the good old Sacred Flame, and as a secondary at will, you are going to use most of the time Astral Seal, because, well, your support, and you are going to cleanse your allies, you are going to heal them a bit, and you are also going to generate that extra tiny bit of action points from healing action. So that's actually not something you should use, because Blessing of Battle, well, in theory it's good, but in practice it's bad, because the content does not allow for such things. Sometimes you can use it and there won't be any problem, but in some encounters it's going to be a hindrance, it's going to cause trouble. So you should not use that, because it can cause trouble sometimes, and it's a risk when you use that, it's a risk. Now let's discuss a bit next class feature, which is Anointed Armor. Anointed Armor is one of the best PvP class feature. It's for yourself only, but it's going to increase your own damage resistance, and you are going to be a true tank with that. Almost, well, not true Guardian Fighter or Paladin level, but you are going to be quite tanky with that, and people are going to be in big trouble with they want to kill you. But again, in group content, you are not supposed to protect yourself. You are supposed to either carry stupid if you play Anointed Champion, or you are supposed to increase your party's damage by using buffs. So this is something you should not use in PvE, because, well, it's not your role. You are not supposed to protect yourself. You are not supposed to take aggro and take hits. So now I want to address this thing, because it's just too much of a big issue in my opinion. Let's talk about something one of my friends discovered, which he is actually sharp edge. You probably know him. He made the control wizard, the famous control wizard build. So let's just discuss about it. This is actually one of the good way to compensate for the main weakness of Anointed Champion, which is divinity generation. He told me the other day, well, okay, I've discovered something you can use on your offhand, and well, it might be good. You can look into it. That's interesting. Well, actually, that was quite an understatement. It's absolutely fantastic, and in my opinion, it's the next meta thing. So, what does it do? It's a passive divinity generation feat. Light of the Divinity becomes a passive divinity generation thing. So this is absolutely fantastic. This is just great. So let's show it a bit, So that's already with NPCs doesn't work that well, but with player you are going to see much more divinity generated over time. It's quite good with player, not that great with NPCs, but it's passive, and you are going to generate divinity even if you didn't have a full divinity bar when you left the encounter. And it fits well within the let's play stupid Anointed Champion paragon is. In my opinion, you can do a bit more mistake with your divinity, and you are going to be able to generate divinity between encounters, and you are going to be able to generate passively divinity during fights, which is again what you need to cast, because you want to cast Break the Spirit as often as you want to maintain a high uptime on it and not make it a weak buff. So now let's discuss this thing, because I really want to talk about this. It's not a bad spell, it's actually a good one, but I don't think it's as valuable as people think it is when it comes to damage increases. Okay, it's going to increase your allies' power by quite a lot, especially if you are using companions with bonding runestone on them, because, well, it's broken and it's going to buff companions which are going to buff their master in return. That just sucks as a mechanic in general. It's not something the game should do in my opinion, but it does currently. And well, Anointed Army is going to do that, but even with that mechanic, you are still going to push players to maybe 100k for the lowly geared player, maybe 150k power, a bit more than that, but it's not going to go much higher. And given the current state of the power and damage curve, it's still inferior in most cases to Hallowed Ground. And given the fact that buff, like I've said, damage buff applied to your characters that appear here in your buff bar, damage buff snowballs, which means that Hallowed Ground is going to be stronger if you use at the same time Break the Spirit, or maybe have a Forge Master Flame active, or why not some Guardian Fighter buff like Into the Fray, or maybe other party buffs. that's just going to be much stronger than Anointed Army alone. Because okay, it gives a big power increase. That's funny to see. That seems very cool, but in practice, it's just good. It's not fantastic. It's not game breaking. It's just decent, and well, it's in my opinion vastly overrated for its buffing ability. However, the good thing about it is that it's going to shield your allies a bit if they cannot move out of red zone, or if they can't see that they should move out of small NPCs range, because well, they may die if they don't move. So you are going to actually be able to carry stupid player in iron content, which isn't bad thing sometimes, because not all players are good, and let's just face it, some players are just awful, and you sometimes just need the fifth as a warm body, and you don't want it to be on respawn at the campfire all the time. So this is one of the good reasons to pick Anointed Army. However, one of the main drawbacks of Anointed Army, and I'm going to show that at the same time as something else I want to show. Let's go there. One of the main drawbacks of Anointed Army is that the range is extremely small, and then DPS player and tank players do not have visual feedback like they do with Divine Oracle's use of Hallowed Ground. Hallowed Ground, like I've said, is fantastic because it offers damage resistance, damage buff, and visual feedbacks. I often see when I play my cleric and use Hallowed Ground, I often see players that were out of range and very far away from the team. They are going to make the effort to move to Hallowed Ground to get the 40% damage buff. If I just used Anointed Army, they are not going to make the effort because it has very little visual feedback. I'm going to show you in a moment, and I'm going to show you how fragile it is at the same time. Let's just cast it on myself. So I'm going to have small ball casted around me, and let's take damage, and it's gone already. I've been hit a few times already. I've taken maybe 2 or 3 hits, and it's gone. My pet does not have it anymore either, so it just I've lost everything. I've lost the power buff, I've lost the mitigation buff, and in my opinion, as a buff, it just sucks because in some cases it's going to disappear quite too quickly from your buff bar, and you are not going to be able to do as well as a buffer because Hallowed Ground, well, even if players take damage, it's going to stay. It's not moving, it's just here, and it's not going away. And here I'm going to take some more damage. Okay, it's gone again, and it sucks. I'm sorry, there is no good explanation. There's no good justification to taking that as a buff seriously. It's not a serious buff. It's a buff, but in my opinion, it's not good as a buff. I think people just take it for what it's not. It's a carry spell for stupid player who cannot move away from bad hit from NPCs and bosses. This is just what it is. It's a mitigation buff. It's a fantastic mitigation buff because allied players are going to survive quite big hits, quite annoying stuff, and well, this is annoying. They are going to survive quite bad stuff when you are using it, but they are not going to be doing as much damage as players that stand in Hallowed Ground. This is just how it works because the buff is way too conditional, too fragile. It's going to go away in no time if you use it because, well, if you use it with stupid players, they are going to take damage anyway. So what did you expect, honestly? So now that my little rant about Anointed Army is done, we can discuss a bit more. We can discuss things a bit more quietly because, well, honestly, Anointed Champion is, in my opinion, it's still a good spec, but don't take it for what it is. It's not a buff spec. Do not take it for buffing. If you want to buff, you are going to use Divine Oracle because Divine Oracle offers vastly superior option in terms of divinity generation, and you can pick more interesting Righteous class feature, Righteous build fits, and you are also going to be able, as Divine Oracle, to have access to passive debuffs like Terrifying Hit. That I don't have that as Anointed Champion. I'm just going to rely on divinity generation to cast Break the Spirit. That's still a good thing, but it's not as strong as what I can access to as Divine Oracle. So be careful. Don't think it's just the best PvE Paragon, because it's not. It's to play with average or less than average player. You are going going to do well with bad players. But again, if you could just pick a better team, you could benefit from much better buff, much faster dungeon clearing, and a better farming experience overall. So yeah, that's about it for Anointed Champion. I hope you learned something, and well, thanks for watching.